Very good morning.
Very good morning. This is a joyous occasion.
Exactly.
Exactly. Our union is celebrating its Diamond Jubilee in this year.
I know it.
You know it.
I must know.
As per the decision of the union, we are meeting the old leaders, veterans, who made this organization.
Very appropriate.
Was for the past 60 years.
Okay.
And built these organizations to this stature. The young comrades, today's present day comrades, are eager to know what is the history of our union.
That is
the struggles that we are eager to hear from you.
Then it is quite natural. Quite natural in the sense that anybody belonging to the union should have a brief understanding as to what has happened either to our bank in the past, so also to our organization, Federal Bank Employees Union. It is a must in a sense. See, our bank throughout its history has made tremendous achievements in the field of business, which perhaps no other bank has been able to achieve. That is one side of the picture, bank side, business side. Equally, you look at the organization on the other side. That is also, I say, the history was galloping from the very day of its inception. Bank had its beginning in 1945 from Tiruvalla. It was brought back to Alva, established its head office by veteran Sri K.P. Hormis. He was definitely a man of great imagination. He dreamt of making the bank spread not only within the borders of the state, just a brief area. He wanted to take the bank outside the state and spread it to whichever states possible he could. And during his lifetime he achieved it also. I remember during his last days had opened 7 branches in Assam side. That was his great vision. On the other side, you look at the organization. One and the only organization in Federal Bank from the very inception. And the employees had no other choice at all. Entire lot from day one till today, everybody stood by the great organization Federal Bank Employees Union under the able guidance of All Kerala Bank Employees Federation as also All India Bank Employees Association. That is the glittering story Federal Bank Employees Union can boast in front of anybody. And you can feel proud that you are a member, active member of your trade union like this. It's our story.
When you joined the bank?
My coming to the bank was only by the end of 1961. I got confirmed in 30th January 1962. And you know, in those days, union movement was not that active. It had started by 1963 when, you know, one Mr. V.P. Marikar was its president, and he continued only for a short term. He is not from bank, but he was a leader, great leader of INTUC. He had, of course, major contributions, but without much of a delay, the leadership was taken over by T.K. Vinayar as its president.
First.
Beginner, General Secretary was Comrade M.T. Tom, who later became branch manager, and thus he retired. After him came Mr. Varghese Jacob for a brief period of 6 or 7 months, after which he got retired from the bank and shifted to Central Bank of India, elsewhere in the state. While Jacob Varghese leaving the bank, myself,
72, in 1972.
P.N. Joseph, was entrusted with the duties of General Secretary as acting General Secretary.
At that time you was the treasurer of the union.
I was treasurer at that time. General Secretary's function was entrusted to me, and thereafter was held conference of the union when I was elected as the General Secretary of the union in the year.
That's in 1972.
19
That's the Koilon conference, I think.
It was in the Koilon conference, 1972. You see, what is pertinent is the history of struggles that had been undertaken by the organization all throughout, had got established in the bank and flexed its muscles. There was not much to mention as service conditions in the bank. Most terms, including what is paid as salary or other benefits, everything was of a lower scale, and for that simple reason, employees in general was not very enthusiastic. Union got organized, undertook struggles one after another, forced the management to come to terms with the employees union. It was a step-by-step growth. The first organized step in the bank by means of a settlement was not between the bank's management and the union, but it was a settlement signed by All Kerala Bank Employees Federation with the management's representatives in Kerala. It is popularly called as One State Bank Settlement of 1970. That was the basis of what is a salary structure in Federal Bank or similar small banks of at that time in the state. Federal Bank, of course, as party to the One State Bank settlement, implemented it. But in those days there were banks like Dhanlakshmi Bank or Lord Krishna Bank, which were smaller banks, reluctant to implement even that One State Bank settlements. So that had followed several struggles in those places to obtain this One State Bank settlement benefits. That is the beginning. Then began bank-wise struggles, sometimes in Federal Bank by Federal Bank Employees Union, or in Parur Central Bank by Parur Central Bank Employees Union, or in Lord Krishna Bank by Lord Krishna Bank Employees Union. So also Tricur based several other banks. This became a routine in Kerala because employees of all those small banks were disappointed in respect of their terms and service benefits are concerned. Whatever benefit employees had achieved were only through struggles in these banks.
How you have coordinated and
So had thus in 1972 in Federal Bank a lasting struggle, raising demands by the union. Of course, the struggle resulted in a settlement signed by both the parties, management and the union. Some benefits were achieved from the bank. This is to say beginning. Look, from there onwards, union had its own strengthening position in the bank. Organizational activities.
Then how you mold these comrades to
activities was mobilized all through the bank in the state, and that made the union to undertake further struggles, because direct negotiations did not yield any results if not supported by a struggle by the employees. That was how things were moving in this bank. Only through struggles, not otherwise. You could get any benefit here was the order of the day.
Ormis sir was the chairman of the
bank. Mr. Ormis was the chairman of the bank. He was the chairman of the Bankers Committee Kerala. He never he was never generous in his approach towards the employees. Not only that, even to harass the employees and also some of the union leaders, he found time. So that also irked the employees in general. All the dissatisfactions together, the union came to light, announcing a continuous struggle in the bank. You may know that during 77-78 period, it was sheer exploitation of employees' labor. How employees taken in the bank were not given an appointment of job, but they were entered the bank as a trainee. The order stated that they were taken in as a trainee and they were put on training. There ends the matter.
Preliminary time there was no period for training.
The period of training was not mentioned. What is to be paid was also not mentioned, because it gave freedom to management to determine on their own, sometimes individual by individual, this stipend amount according to bank's choice. And there is another feature in the bank, that is all about appointment of lady employees. There was no lady employees for considerably a long time. When ladies were taken in, there was a specific condition, very extraordinary, which in no other institution you may see. It was lady employees were not eligible to get married during the pendency of employment. If they get married, the service terms mentioned by virtue of getting married, lady employees will get terminated from the service. A strange condition that was enforced perhaps only in this bank. You can imagine the level of management thinking, their social level of employees' concerns. See, all these things put together, trainees, majority employees, trainee officers, majority of them, ladies with stipend and without stipend. The total workforce, 70-80% as a whole in the bank, they formulated these trainees alone. Then what happened? At the organizational front, trainees, they won't come together. They won't take membership in the union. So the strength of the employees stood reduced to 1/4 or so. Even on a strike day, employees participating in the strike and keeping outside were less than 20-25%. Being trainees, 75% will enter the bank. Therefore, the function will be all right for the bank. Therefore, the organization will have little bargaining. Naturally, the management will yield very less. Such a pathetic was the situation in the bank. They need not hear the employees or their organization. They go their own way in the bank as management. This was a peculiar setup in this bank. At one stage, union decided, all right, the entire lot of trainees, forming almost 3/4 of the workforce, they be given union membership as organization members. A wide campaign was conducted with the President's Comrade TKV's help and instigation.
Maybe a rare experience in India.
Which is a very rare experience, particularly in banks. Trainees will never be given trade union membership. We decided it, gave the union membership to them, all trainees, ladies and others, men and women. Everybody was asked to join the union and all of them were given membership with a ground that during a strike call day, the entire bank will remain paralyzed because all the employees, including trainees, will keep outside the bank.
It was beyond the expectation of the management.
That was totally beyond the expectation of the management. No transaction could be done any day of strike. That was the organizational strength. It worked. It produced the result. Management could not but yield. And we had a tremendous settlement during 79-80. The end was a very good settlement. Union established its strength. Major settlement was on transfer policy. Because transfer was always worked as a weapon in the hands of the management.
It's a peculiar settlement in the banking.
Of course, because the union had some say in the matter of transfer. It spelled out which way the transfer has to be effected in the bank, giving priority for certain employees or otherwise on the basis of seniority. Strict adherence to the transfer policy clauses only, management was able to have transfers effected in the bank thereafter. Transfer settlement benefited the employees as a whole. They could have a sense of security in their respective places of work. And at one stage, the transfer policy ensured that without the employee submitting a request for his transfer, he will not be transferred at all.
In no other bank such a settlement is existing.
There won't be such a provision about transfers in any other bank. This ensured security of placement as far as the employees were concerned, including trainees.
And a self-respect.
I added to the self-respect of the employees that way. So little by little, some sort of benefits, earned service benefits, then transfer, posting stability.
And the management's attitude in between the strike. A vengeance to this.
The management has always had a vengeance against the employees. I remember management used to say, there is no loan facility for employees in the bank. No loans to Federal Bank staff. Like that, management used to give boasting. Then what about their giving some sort of benefits to the employees? So negative was their approach always. There was one large scale termination in the bank during 1980 struggle. That is very particular to be mentioned here. Maybe around 280 trainees were working in the bank as regular employees, though they were called trainees, and though they were given only a meager stipend amount, they had a full stretch of workload, including trainees holding the post of clerks, payment as well as receipt. This was the work culture. So, when these trainees, after membership given in the union, they resorted to strike. If one day strike at the call of the union, trainees also struck work for one day. What the management responded, they give a what I call a lump sum order. At one stretch of a bank circular, entire trainees, clerks in the bank were sent out of the bank. Around 200 trainees were terminated. At a stretch, all of them went outside, some of them weeping in the open.
Office itself was more than 100 ladies staff.
In an office itself 120 and odd trainees were there. All of them had to go out of their offices. They assembled with mermaids outside the bank. Naturally, there was a sort of gloom, which resulted because of unions' call for a day's struggle. Some of them even had repented to have gone on strike. Union stepped in, put up a very resolute stand against the management. They rallied the entire employees and trainees together. They held a banner in their hands, and with the banners raised and the entire lot in a row, they marched in front of the head office, which was a 3-story building. and the entire lot entered into the first floor premises of the bank from one end. They marched to the other end, shouting slogans and holding flags in their hands. At the end of that floor, they climbed up to the third floor. There also they shouted slogans against the management. This was taking place during working hours. Third floor also they culminated in the march from one end to the other, held demonstrations. Thereafter they got out of the bank. At the front they held demonstrations continuously. So these actions of vigor inspired the employees in general. Report was flashed not only in Alua head office, it was sent throughout the bank's branches. It regenerated employees as a whole. And management was not ready to come down. What they did, you know, the general manager in charge of the chairman in those days, Mr. K.P. Cherian, he filed a complaint with the police stating falsely that he was surrounded by the employees during demonstrations.
Get out.
He was karavod, this was the term he used. He was karavod, so he asked the police to come and release him from the bondage. Like that he reported to the police. Came in police van with a large number of them, then as if employees were, making hindrance to GM. There was nothing of the sort. Employees told him whenever he wanted to go, wherever he wanted to go. Employees had no objection at all. The only thing is they stood at the front of the gate, they shouted slogan, they ventilated their grievances. They wanted management to talk to the union, come to a settlement, settle the demands. This was only thing the employees had demanded. Instead, he made complaints in writing to the police. Police had come in a rush. They picked up the general manager as if he was escaped by the police only. It was nothing but a show which was of no need at all. And that day the struggle had ended this way. And then started it again. There was further struggles continued that year. In 1980, struggles still continued. Other branches had demonstrations and satyagraha in front of those branches. It was a very tense situation in the bank as a whole. So management could not go without having a peaceful atmosphere by signing a settlement with the union. They were compelled with no other go. So they had called Assistant Labour Commissioner's help. The commissioner had called the union and management for a discussion. Discussion was held several times. Demands were presented and there were negotiations continuous. This was a new chapter opened in the bank because of our union and union's very bold struggle. And you will remember we had a transfer policy settlement dated 1980. The result of the settlement is such that entire vindications, entire victimizations and sacrifices are made upon the employees. Management had to retrace. They were taken in. Everybody was taken back in the service, placed in the same places, and regular employment was continued. Then the employees became very happy over the situation, and for that reason alone the union was acknowledged by all means, and therefore belief was built among the employees over the strength and capability of the organization. Such a massive struggle had been undertaken by the union in the year 1980. This was one step, and I can cite many other such struggles undertaken by the organization thereafter.
And in the bank's organization setup was changed and personal and industrial.
Of course. The situation was had taken a total change in the banking sector, Kerala in particular. So, after the term of Mr. K.P. Ormis, after him came Mr. K.P. Cherian, and there was a period of gap in the top position of the bank. Then came one Mr. V. Verghese, who was chairman of State Bank of Travancore. He took over here as chairman in 1980, then continued, and thereafter came in 1983 Mr. Shyam Sundar. During those period also, there were the problem of traineeship. Traineeship was a headache for the employees all through. Employees were divided into two, confirmed employees on one side, as also more than confirmed employees, many were trainees on the other side.
Meager stipend was given.
With a meager stipend for them. This had been continued. Traineeship was a headache for the employees all through. It reduced the bargaining of the organization as such. Then they started the union with its sole motto of doing away with the traineeship in Federal Bank. Bank, of course, had resorted to massive recruitments, all of them coming in the bank as trainees only. So, union took an ultimate decision. No more traineeship in Federal Bank. With that aim, union announced a strike in the bank again. This took place in the year 1986. Abolition of trainee system was the major demand. And naturally, entire employees stood behind the this motto. Do away with the training in the bank. Most other nationalized banks, employees were taken in as probationary employees with a full payment. Whereas in this bank alone, it was with a stipend and a very meager amount with no other benefits allowed to the trainees.
But even they not dared to terminate any trainees.
And of course, there was not much of termination of trainees. That kind of provocation was less. But without payment and confirmation, trainees, they suffered a lot. They did not have independent standing. I mean, a confirmed employment they never enjoyed. This was a headache. So, this became the only demand of the union. And that followed several one-day strikes in the bank.
In 79 strike, one strategy was to own your salary.
That is another thing. Very unusual step was adopted by the management in the year 1979-80. That was, a new interpretation was brought in by them. That if you go on strike for one day, they interpreted that there cannot be a legal strike in the bank, and therefore the strikes undertaken by the union used to be illegal strikes. And they announced they had the right to cut wages of the employees for 8 days per 1 day of strike. You follow? For 1 day strike, 8 days wages, management started deducting salary. This was a very big provocation. In the year 1980, in January, there were 4 days separate strikes in the bank.
Then no salary for
all branches. So they calculated management 4 into 8. 4 into 8 means 32 days salary they proposed to cut. That means no employee will get any salary on the strike day. I mean on the salary day. This became the new situation. They wanted to punish by depriving salary of the employees. Thereby resisting them from the strike front. It did not work. It never worked. Employees, all of them were with the organization only. Union assured them, you will get salary. We will somehow get the salary on the salary date. And the union in a circular announced, never mind, employees will get salary as usual on the strike day, was the union circular that was released from Alway. And that action was captioned like this: own your own salary scheme. As if a scheme was evolved by the union in its circular, enabling the employees to get full salary at the end of the month on the salary day. How it was to be, that was not spelled out. Union circular ensured every employee that employees will definitely get their salary, even though management had their proposal to withhold entire salary. This was the opposite situation that was obtained in the bank in the year 1980.
Then 80s.
Salary scheme definitely worked. Salary, it worked in the bank. Union made it in the as it promised. On the day of the salary, a peculiar scheme was involved. Strategy was involved by the union, and employees in respective branches employed that technique in the bank on the salary date.
With the help of the local other trade union leaders.
Of course, with the help of local bank employees as also other trade union leaders. Their help was sought. They held satyagraha inside the bank until they were to receive salary. It continued indefinitely.
The cash was not closed.
The cash was not closed by the cashier. So what happened? The day's business could not be closed by the employees or cashier or officers or the manager. The entire books of the bank and cash stock remained open. That was not possible to close the cash that day. The situation continued even after closing times of the bank. And that situation of uncertainty continued late in the evening, then during night. There are branches. All through night, the offices remained open. The cash never closed. But employees and officers roaming around their branches, they could not return to their homes. Cash remained open, not closed. This was an unusual situation created in the bank branches, mostly in Kerala. It was rather a surprise situation for the management. By around midnight, management representatives, they rushed to lawyers, reporting the situation to important lawyers in Cochin. They had consultations how to tide over the situation. And they were helpless. Lawyers were helpless in the sense that cashiers or other employees, when they refused to do their job, within bracket, allowing the cash to remain open, lawyers told them it amounted to strike only. Employees were resorting to strike. So nothing more could be done by the management. It was a strike they had undertaken. So they did not suggest, they did not have to suggest a remedy for the situation. And this situation was resulted in some branch managers dispersing full salary. Several branches dispersed salary during night. That was enthusiasm had shot up among the employees for this situation. They rejoiced when they received salary in full. In several branches, employees received salary. A very rejoicing situation was created that way by means of what was called shortly by own your own salary scheme, what is popularly called as own your own salary scheme. The year 1983 produced a very peculiar situation in Calcutta branches and Assam branches, northeast, followed by suspension of Matthew George, union representative in the Dimapur branch, was suspended the bank for no reason at all. That was followed by continuous strike in that branch, supported by strike in other Assam branches. Of course, strike in Calcutta branches also. Nowhere in these branches was able to conduct bank transactions any day from that day onwards. Nothing worked in any of the Calcutta branches, in any of the Assam side branches. While this was the condition, GM was in charge of the situation, Mr. K.P. Cheriya. On a day, there appeared a paper publicity, advertisement by the management in Calcutta that all the branches, 7 branches in Calcutta, remained locked out from that day onwards, with the result that nothing was allowed to transact by the management itself. It was a first incident in the perhaps banking history that the management itself was declaring lockout, refusing to undertake transactions, refusing to pay back deposit money of the clients, refusing to pay cash for the checks issued by its customers. All with the aim of circumventing the employees. A terror situation was created, so to say, among the employees. Union stood very firm amongst the employees in Kolkata. Leadership reached there. They toured all the Kolkata branches, covered other Assam side branches, where the business was still. Employees also not allowed to do their normal work, and therefore works piled up in those branches. Customers gathered in front of Kolkata branches. Branches were not conducting business transactions at the instance of the bank management. This position continued. Regional Labour Commissioner intervened, called both parties, management on one side and the employees' representative, as also ABA leadership involved in the direct talks with the Federal Bank management. Not 1 or 2 days, discussion continued. The posture by the management was that they won't open the branches unless employees not only surrender their rights to organize and to strike work, but in their turn should oblige the work as usual, not resorting to any of organizational activities. Management insisted there shall not be trade union work, neither in Kolkata branches nor in Assam branches. A situation which no union could accept. Categorically said ABA leadership at the face of the bank's management. The team was led by KP Cherian, General Manager. ABA leadership said, nothing doing. Employees will not budge unless and until their demands are met, banks are opened, their emoluments are released, then regular business is renewed. This was the AIBI leadership's offer. It took several days for the management to accept these dictates. A stage arose whereby for management it was tough for them to continue with the lockout position in the face of restless bank clients insistently demanding payment of their hard-earned money and demanding business transactions. Not for long, management was able to withhold this denial of business at bank's initiative. Management was in a precarious situation. It could not but budge and accept unions' demands one by one, and at last that reached in a written settlement running into several pages, and at the end revoking actions taken by the management, vindictive actions, withdrawal of the vindictive actions. It was a full settlement, management accepting unions' demands on one side, as also revoking the victimization acts from their part. It was a rebellion created by the union, resulting in a rejoicing success in the union's history of struggles. At last, branches were opened on such and such, maybe after a week's closure. Normalcy was achieved gradually. Kolkata was put on usual business. But this was not the case with Assam side branches. Assam side branches were still limping. So, union leadership, President Comrade K.S. Rao, undersigned General Secretary, both of us toured Kolkata, Assam side branch. Management by then was set for a settlement in respect of actions they resorted to in those Assam branches. Guwahati, Dimapur, Shillong, etc. Managers of the concerned branches were called to the area headquarters in Guwahati, and the area manager represented the management there, and the other side, President and General Secretary, together with the union's local leadership, attended their talks. That led to signing a settlement Of course, at the instance of head office management in Alua. Again, employees achieved their demands and they could rejoice over the settlement. The situation created a history again in the bank. Abolition of traineeship in the bank remained a larger question all through. A negotiated settlement was found to be drifting away, and the union at last decided for a adjudication. There was serious sitting with negotiating on how it should be regarding traineeship, which ultimately settled in a return settlement as on 1986, abolishing traineeship in the Federal Bank. The resultant settlement had stipulated a day for ending the traineeship, from which day onwards employment in the bank would be on probation basis with a full salary.
The existing trainees also had become
as probations with a full salary. This benefit was extended to the entire lot of trainees at that time in the bank. Decades long that exploitation, management's exploitation came to an end by union signing a settlement on the question. About my turn to a bank job, which is very interesting. It was in the year 1961, after my matriculation, that I happened to go through a small piece of advertisement in the press calling for first class matriculates for employment in the bank. Not knowing what the terms are, a group of youngsters applied for job, and after interview, when appointed in the bank, I was posted as a trainee among a few others. Training period was stated to be for about 6 months, during which there will be a stipend paid, and after that full salary starting at rupees 70 a month. Rupees 70 a month. This was in the year 1962.
62, a confirmation.
1962. There was another incident also. There were a lot of trainees appointed by the bank by that time. In the background of government going for large scale nationalization of banks, management here adopted a peculiar position in order to benefit the trainees bank had recruited in the bank. It served a confirmation letter to all the trainees as probationers and with a full salary. This was a first step in that direction.
But at that time, nationalization was not took place.
But nationalization actually did not take place. Even the trainees in the bank were benefited that way. Again, seeing that there is no nationalization of banks like a Federal Bank, management started going for
Trainees.
taking trainees.
The union was formed in 1963, I think. Is
1963
63.
only.
Three only.
Union formed in 1963 only. Then they set period of training for trainees initially. Thereafter, what had happened is recruitment of trainees was without mentioning any period. Without mentioning period, they started enrolling trainees. And there are trainees who underwent training about 4 years. Even though in my case, I could get confirmation after 7 months from January 1962. This is my position. At that time, there was no thought of any trade union in the bank. We were nowhere near any organization activities. But all other banks have different stories, including major banks and nationalized ones had very strong union activities enrolled under one major trade union, All India Bank Employees Association. Its state unit was in operation in Kerala in the style All Kerala Bank Employees Federation. So, leadership of AKBF started concentrating on these new recruits in Federal Bank. There also a union was formed in Federal Bank. Thus started a trade union period in Federal Bank also, with vigorous activities, very tough struggles, strike, work cessations, all trade union activities. Trade union activities was very tough in the bank. Management always stood in the way, never compromising anything that said. Of course, union got established, and today I can say with proud that barring State Bank of India, Federal Bank stands as number one in the matter of fringe benefits, that is over and above salary and allowances as part of All India settlements by IIBA. That position still continues in the industry, particularly in the state of Kerala. This proud situation has been a creation of TU movement and of course under the leadership of All India Bank Employees Association.
TKV was our president for a long time. The president of General Secretary of All Kerala Bank Employees Federation.
Yes.
And you are the General Secretary for the past 25 years, from 72 to...
For about 25 years I was the General Secretary, and considerably very long period TKV was our president.
And in 82
he was the master brain of the trade union movement, not only in Federal Bank, as a whole in Kerala.
One memories in association with TKV.
My memories, very cordial and very much enriching was my experience with Comrade TKV, who led me during all difficult times. He only provided solace. that resulted in achieve settlements after settlements in a bank like a Federal Bank, where the management always stood very tough.
And association with the AIB. And at that time, Prabhakar was General Secretary. For the past 20 years.
While I was in the Union Front here in Federal Bank, it was Prabhatkar who was the tall figure of bank employees in India, who was also a member of Parliament at one time.
57 to 67.
57 to 67. Thereafter came Targeswar Chakravarti.
A long time he was.
During my tenure, Targeswar was AIB General Secretary, and I was lucky enough to work under him very closely. And at one stage, he made me Vice President of All India Bank Employees Association, which according to me is a history for me.
From the small bank,
Yes. From a bank like a Federal Bank, he selected a Vice President.
And you were the General Secretary of All Kerala Bank Employees also?
For 2 terms, I was General Secretary of All Kerala Bank Employees Federation.
Led the bank employees in the state.
Next to Comrade Srinivasan. It is all history. Very proud history as far as I am concerned.
The happiest moments in the trade union life you ever?
Of course.
In your memory?
Definitely. Very proud memory for me with the trade union movement. That way I have achieved in my life.
Memorable decisions.
Now, that has resulted in memorable decision also. The organizational front as well as bank side also.
The role of leaders to make FBEU so militant amongst the bank employees in India, taken by the former leaders.
In a sense, our union provided the opportunity, and therefore I had to act, and I thus acted. At one stage I was General Secretary, President in Paru Central Bank. Thereafter I was President in Lord Krishna Bank.
All over India you were acceptable to all bank employees?
Bank employees came to know of me through this union work. They were keen to observe, in particular, what was going on in Federal Bank Employees Union. Of course, under the militant leadership of TKV and of course ABG Nair, Sri K. Srinivasan.
He was the town committee convener in the early days.
That is, to begin with my work in the Federation, it was Alway Town Committee. And I had in those days worked with Srinivasan as Town Committee convener. Then he shifted as District Committee Secretary to Ernakulam. Then he became General Secretary of FBEU. He was elevated to Assistant Secretary of All India Bank Employees Association later. Followed by him, I became
General Secretary.
General Secretary FBEU, then AIB office bar.
And a long time you were Organizing Secretary of All Kerala Bank Employees.
Of course, I was Organizing Secretary of FBEU for 2-3 terms. I was Organizing Secretary.
About the women participation in our union?
That is a story. A story in the sense, many are still to come to forefront of the movement. Trade union movement. All are loyal to the union, very disciplined in the matter of organizational activities and strike. They have militant posture, definitely. But taking up organizational positions, not many are coming forward. Because their history is very peculiar. There was suppression at the beginning. It continued for quite a long time. Then union came to their rescue. They were in one way or other brought to the main stream of the union. and achievements were made in their favor. Their demands were met, and equality were brought in the bank in the matter of service conditions.
From non-ladies to a larger number of ladies.
Definitely. Now it is
41%. Now 41% of employees are ladies.
More than half the employees are ladies.
It's almost the starting no ladies.
At one stage there was no ladies at all. Beginning. At the beginning of the bank.
A word to the youth.
To the youth, you know, if you want to establish your personality, trade union platform will definitely provide a militant stage platform, which you must resort to as a brave platform. You have to venture for brave decisions, for which trade union will provide a very good platform for you.
More than becoming a top executives.
And I enjoyed it, definitely. I mean, instead of going that way, I enjoyed very much going by a trade union platform.
Sacrificing for others' welfare.
I didn't take it as a sacrifice, but as an opportunity for me to act and express myself. That was my position.
And the challenges today. Can you define the challenges?
There has to be challenges. Only challenges will make you work up to your maximum. So, challenges, you welcome them always.
Face it.
You face them. That will make you express yourself and bring result.
An advice to the youngsters, present generation of employees.
And it's a very excellent way you can opt, not only by, going by career path. This trade union path is also equally, sometimes more equally than the other way.
What do you feel after a long span of 6 decades of our organization?
I feel I have done what I should. I feel that satisfaction. And anytime I am encouraged by that period of service done to the comrades.
And about
I am enjoying that sense always.
And about your family?
Family situation, of course, they wanted to have my service, more service from me. They had expected, which they did not get. Still, a satisfied family I am having. Very good family relationship. My wife, my children, 2 sons and 1 daughter, all are well placed and leading a very happy life today. At the fag end, also I feel I am active.
Still, there is a. Thank you, Inspector.
Okay.